Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or ambition. They fail quietly, slowly, and repeatedly because they don't know how to deal with people. Think about it. How many opportunities slipped away not because you weren't good enough, but because someone didn't like you, didn't trust you, or didn't feel understood by you? A promotion you deserved but didn't get. A relationship that slowly turned cold. A conversation where you said the right facts, yet everything still went wrong. If this stings even a little, stay with me. Because the difference between a life that feels stuck and a life that keeps moving forward often comes down to a single invisible skill most people never consciously learn. We are taught how to read, how to write, how to calculate numbers, how to use technology. But no one teaches us how to make people feel valued, how to disagree without creating enemies, how to lead without forcing, or how to influence without manipulation. And yet, every single day, your success is being silently negotiated in conversations you don't even realize are tests. Tests of empathy. Tests of emotional intelligence. Tests of human understanding. Pass them, and doors open. Fail them, and the world quietly resists you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being right is often useless. You can win an argument and still lose a relationship. You can have the best idea in the room and watch it die because you presented it the wrong way. You can work harder than everyone else and still be overlooked because people don't feel good around you. And what makes this painful is that most people never realize what's happening. They think the world is unfair, that people are selfish, that success is rigged. Sometimes that's true. But more often, the real problem is simpler and harder to accept. People don't care how much you know until they feel that you care about them. This insight didn't come from theory or psychology labs. It came from decades of observing human behavior in the real world. From watching leaders rise not because they were the smartest, but because they understood people. From watching conflicts dissolve not through force, but through understanding. From watching ordinary individuals gain extraordinary influence by changing one thing: how they treated others. At its core, this book is not about winning friends in a shallow social media sense. It's about understanding human nature. And human nature hasn't changed in thousands of years. Strip away technology, culture, and language, and you'll find the same basic desires beating inside every person you meet. The desire to feel important. The desire to feel appreciated. The desire to feel seen. Most people walk through life starved for appreciation. They crave recognition like a plant craves sunlight. And yet, we are strangely stingy with it. We criticize more than we praise. We correct more than we encourage. We point out flaws because it makes us feel superior, without realizing we are slowly poisoning our relationships. Criticism feels powerful in the moment, but it almost never creates lasting change. Instead, it creates resentment, defensiveness, and quiet resistance. Imagine telling someone they're wrong. What happens inside them instantly? Even if they smile and nod, something hardens. Their mind stops listening and starts defending. You didn't change them. You pushed them further into their position. This is why arguments are so rarely won. You can pile logic on top of logic, facts on top of facts, and still lose. Because people don't argue to discover truth. They argue to protect their identity. One of the most important lessons in this book is deceptively simple. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Not because people are fragile, but because criticism attacks the ego, and the ego will always fight back. When people feel attacked, their first instinct is not to improve. It's to justify, to explain, to blame something else. Even criminals rarely see themselves as villains. Everyone has a story where they are the hero. This doesn't mean you should tolerate bad behavior or never correct anyone. It means if you want real change, you must take a smarter path, a path that works with human psychology, not against it. The moment you make someone feel small, you lose influence. The moment you make someone feel understood, you gain it. Consider this. When was the last time someone genuinely appreciated you? Not flattery, not manipulation, real appreciation. It probably stands out in your memory. That's because appreciation is rare, and its impact is powerful. The book teaches that sincere appreciation is one of the strongest forces in human interaction. And sincerity is everything. People can smell fake praise instantly. But when appreciation is honest, specific, and heartfelt, it creates loyalty that no amount of money can buy. The key word here is sincere. Empty compliments are useless. But noticing real effort, real improvement, real character traits, and acknowledging them out loud can transform relationships. People will move mountains for those who make them feel valued. And the irony is, doing this costs you nothing. No status, no power, no resources, only awareness. Another foundational idea is understanding what actually motivates people. We assume others are motivated by logic, facts, and reason. But in reality, people are motivated by emotion and then justify their decisions with logic. This is why telling someone what they should do rarely works. People want to feel that the decision was theirs. They want to feel respected, not commanded. If you want to influence someone, you must first understand their desires. What do they want? What do they fear? What do they care about? Once you understand this, influence becomes less about persuasion and more about alignment. You stop pushing. You start guiding. This principle applies everywhere. In business, in friendships, in romantic relationships, in family dynamics, even in casual conversations. The fastest way to make someone interested in what you want is to talk about what they want, not in a manipulative way, but in a human way. When people feel that your goals align with theirs, resistance disappears. One of the most underrated skills described in this book is listening. Not waiting for your turn to speak, not pretending to listen while planning your response. Real listening. The kind that makes the other person feel like, for a moment, they are the most important person in the room. This kind of listening is so rare that it feels like magic when it happens. And it creates instant connection. Most people are far more interested in themselves than in you. This is not a flaw. It's human nature. And once you accept this, conversations become easier. You stop trying to impress. You start trying to understand. You ask questions. You let people talk about what excites them. And something strange happens. They leave the conversation thinking you're fascinating, even though you barely talked about yourself. There's a quiet power in letting others shine, in allowing them to feel smart, capable, and important. People don't remember what you said as much as they remember how you made them feel. And if you make them feel good about themselves, they will associate that feeling with you. Names play a surprisingly large role here. A person's name is, to them, the sweetest sound in any language. Remembering and using someone's name signals respect and attention. Forgetting it sends the opposite message. It's a small detail with a big emotional impact. Then there's the art of agreement. This doesn't mean being fake or avoiding disagreement. It means starting from common ground. When you begin with agreement, people open up. When you begin with opposition, they shut down. Even when you strongly disagree, acknowledging the other person's perspective lowers their defenses. It tells them, I see you, I hear you. And once someone feels heard, they are far more willing to listen. Admitting your own mistakes is another powerful and counterintuitive strategy. Most people think admitting fault makes them look weak. In reality, it often makes them look confident and trustworthy. When you criticize yourself before others do, you remove their weapon. You show self-awareness. And you create an atmosphere where honesty feels safe. Few things disarm hostility faster than a genuine admission of error. It turns confrontation into collaboration. Instead of fighting to win, both sides start working to solve the problem. The book also emphasizes the danger of direct orders. No one likes to feel controlled. Even when people follow orders, they often do so with resentment. A better approach is to ask questions, to invite participation, to let people arrive at conclusions themselves. This preserves their dignity and increases their commitment. If you want someone to do something, help them want to do it. Paint a picture of benefits. Appeal to their sense of pride, responsibility, or growth. Make the action feel like a step toward becoming a better version of themselves. There's a subtle but profound shift here. Influence is not about forcing outcomes. It's about shaping environments where the right outcomes emerge naturally, where people feel respected, valued, and motivated. As the ideas unfold, the pattern becomes clear. This is not about tricks or tactics. It's about mindset, a shift from ego to empathy, from proving yourself to understanding others, from control to cooperation. And this is where many people get uncomfortable. Because it requires humility. It requires letting go of the need to be right. It requires seeing people not as obstacles but as allies waiting to be understood. But if you can make this shift, the payoff is enormous. Your conversations become smoother. Your conflicts become fewer. Your relationships become stronger. And your influence grows quietly, steadily, almost invisibly. By now, the philosophy behind these principles should be taking shape. Success with people is not about dominating them. It's about connecting with them. And connection is built on respect, understanding, and genuine interest. In the next part, the ideas go deeper. From handling disagreements without creating enemies, to inspiring people to change willingly, to becoming a leader others want to follow. The focus shifts from individual interactions to lasting influence, from winning moments to winning trust. Because knowing these principles is one thing, living them is another. And once you start applying them, you may notice something surprising. The world doesn't change. You do. And because you change, the world responds differently. As these ideas move from theory into real life, something subtle begins to happen. You stop seeing conversations as battles to win and start seeing them as bridges to build. And nowhere is this more important than in moments of disagreement. Because disagreement is inevitable. Conflict is unavoidable. But enemies are optional. Most people handle disagreement by trying to prove the other person wrong. They raise their voice, sharpen their logic, and collect evidence like weapons. What they don't realize is that the moment someone feels defeated, they stop cooperating. Even if they outwardly agree, inwardly they resist. Pride has been wounded, and wounded pride remembers. The smarter approach is not to avoid disagreement, but to reframe it. Begin by showing respect for the other person's opinion, not as a tactic, but as a truth. Every belief has a reason behind it, a background you may not fully understand. When you acknowledge that, you send a powerful message. This is a conversation, not a courtroom. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," try saying, "I may be mistaken." Those 4 words change everything. They signal humility. They invite dialogue. They lower defenses. And paradoxically, they make your position stronger, not weaker. People are far more open to ideas when they don't feel threatened by them. Another powerful move is letting the other person do most of the talking. This feels counterintuitive, especially when emotions are high. But when people talk, they release tension. They feel heard. And often, they talk themselves into understanding. Silence, used wisely, becomes a tool. Not an awkward one, but a respectful one. When correction is necessary, do it gently. Begin with praise, where it's sincere. Then introduce your point as an observation, not a verdict. No one wants to feel like a problem, but everyone wants to feel like they are improving. The goal is not to expose mistakes, but to inspire growth. This is where leadership quietly enters the picture. Leadership is not about authority or titles. It's about influence. And influence comes from trust. People follow those who make them feel capable, not those who make them feel small. One of the most transformative ideas in the book is the concept of saving face. Every person carries a fragile sense of dignity. Protect it, and you gain loyalty. Destroy it, and you create resistance that may never fully disappear. Even when someone is clearly wrong, humiliating them only guarantees one thing: they will remember how you made them feel, long after they forget the lesson. True leaders correct, without shaming. They guide without humiliating. They allow others to preserve their self-respect while still moving forward. This requires patience, empathy, and emotional intelligence. But the results compound over time. Praise, when used correctly, becomes a powerful engine of change. The book emphasizes praising even small improvements, not exaggerating, not lying, but noticing progress and acknowledging it. This taps into a deep psychological truth. People grow in the direction of encouragement. When someone is labeled careless, they often become more careless. When someone is treated as capable, they often rise to meet that expectation. Your words shape identities, and identities shape behavior. Another subtle but crucial idea is giving people a reputation to live up to. When you express confidence in someone's character or ability, you create a mirror they want to match. You're not manipulating them. You're revealing a better version of them to themselves. Contrast this with constant criticism, which traps people in their worst version. Encouragement opens doors that force never could. As the focus shifts from individual interactions to broader influence, the principles remain the same. Whether you're dealing with one person or 100, human nature doesn't change. People want appreciation. They want autonomy. They want meaning. If you want to inspire action, make the action feel meaningful. Appeal to people's values, not just their convenience. Show them how their effort contributes to something larger than themselves. When people feel purposeful, motivation becomes internal. And internal motivation is unstoppable. The book also reminds us that influence without integrity is manipulation. The goal is not to control people, but to cooperate with them. These principles work best when rooted in genuine respect for others. Used selfishly, they may succeed briefly, but they will eventually collapse. People can sense insincerity, even if they can't explain it. This is why character matters. Influence built on empathy and honesty lasts. Influence built on tricks fades. Now comes the practical question. How do you apply all of this in daily life without overthinking every conversation? Start small. Begin with awareness. Notice how often you interrupt, how often you correct, how often you listen to respond rather than to understand. Awareness alone changes behavior. Make it a habit to look for one thing to sincerely appreciate in the people you interact with each day. Say it out loud. Be specific. Watch how their energy shifts. Practice using people's names. Practice asking questions that invite them to talk about what matters to them. Practice pausing before reacting defensively. That pause is where growth lives. When conflict arises, resist the urge to win immediately. Instead, aim to understand first. You can always state your position later, but once trust is broken, it's hard to rebuild. If you make a mistake, admit it quickly and sincerely. Don't justify it. Don't explain it away. Own it. This single habit builds more respect than perfection ever could. When you want to influence behavior, ask yourself one question. How can I make this feel like their idea? Then shape your words accordingly. Invite collaboration. Offer choices. Respect autonomy. Over time, these small shifts create a big transformation. Your relationships become less draining and more energizing. People become more open around you. Opportunities appear more often, not because you chase them, but because people want to work with you. And perhaps the most important change happens internally. You become calmer, less reactive, more grounded. You stop carrying the weight of constant friction. You move through life with quiet confidence. This is the real promise of the book, not popularity, not manipulation, but mastery of human connection. Because success, at its highest level, is not about intelligence or effort alone. It's about understanding people. And when you understand people, you unlock something rare. The ability to move through the world not as an obstacle, but as a force that brings out the best in others. You don't need to be louder to be heard. You don't need to be harsher to be respected. You don't need to dominate to influence. You need to understand. And once you do, you'll realize something powerful. The world doesn't resist you as much anymore. Conversations flow. Conflicts soften. People listen, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it.